Greetings and peace, everybody. Hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. And the month of September is going great and fruitful for all of you and all that you hold near and dear to your hearts. In today's Masonic education presentation, I will read the poetry of the female Sufi mystic, Rabia Al Basri. And she's not much known in terms of like other poets like Rumi and the others that are out there, but I want to give regard to the divine feminine and to give my own respect and perception from my Sufi and Masonic perspective on what I was able to pick up on her poetry and her esoteric teachings. So I dedicate this to brothers that are listening, friends, those on the path, sisters on the path, those in England and France, those are who are allowed to be Masons from the female perspective, and just anybody who's in touch with that divine feminine in their lives in any way, shape, or form. I dedicate this to you, including our Masonic brothers, and I hope you're able to get something from the teachings of the Sufi mystic Rabia Al Basri. And I thank you all always for joining me. Just please bear with me. I'm going to hit share screen. Okay. All right, so let me show you Rabia Al Basri. So this is her right here. This is like one of her most regarded like paintings or like her pictures in a way from Iraq, and how she's always regarded as this very holy woman. She's this holy woman who's there. And see, this also symbolizes the lady in red. So the lady in red is not, or the scarlet woman is not something that's always evil. It's something good as well, because there's always two sides to every coin. So you always have to look at this benevolent aspect as well of the divine feminine and just the divinity in general in whichever way it portrays itself, because there's always two sides to each equation. So now that you've seen what she looks like, now we will get into her poetry, and I will give my Sufi and Masonic perspective on it. Now, I'm glad there was a PDF, like a compilation of a certain amount of her poems. And this doesn't mention any author who has compiled this PDF. So it's from poemhunter.com. So that's who gets the credit for this, for compiling this. So I own no parts of this. I'm just basically giving my perspective from my Masonic education perspective, and that's pretty much it. And my videos are always nonprofit and for education and awareness. So that out of the way. So Rabia Al Basri, it says, was born in 717, excuse me, CE, or some people say AD, and died at 801 CE or AD. So she was a female Muslim saint and Sufi mystic. Not much is known about Rabia Al Basri, except that she lived in Basra in Iraq. In the second half of the 8th century AD, she was born into poverty. But many spiritual stories are associated with her, and what we can glean about her is reality merged with legend. These traditions come from Farid ud-Din Attar, a later Sufi saint and poet who used earlier sources. Rabia herself, though, has not left any written works. After her father's death, there was a famine in Basra, and during that she was parted from her family. It is not clear how she was traveling in a caravan that was set upon by robbers. She was taken by the robbers and sold into slavery. Her master worked her very hard, but at night after finishing her chores, Rabia would turn to meditation and prayers and praising the Lord. Foregoing rest and sleep, she spent her nights in prayers, and she often fasted. She often fasted during the day. There is a story that once while in the market, she was pursued by a vagabond, and in running to save herself, she fell and broke her arm. She prayed to the Lord, I am a poor orphan and a slave. Now my hand too is broken, but I do not mind these things if thou be pleased with me. And felt a voice reply, never mind all these sufferings. On the day of judgment, you shall be accorded a status that shall be the envy of the angels even. So she was going through her trials and tribulations, it seems. And of course, the aspect of the being an orphan and what all the things that she was going through for her rough ashlar to become a smooth ashlar. One day, the master of the house spied her at her devotions. There was a divine light enveloping her as she prayed. Shocked that he kept such a pious soul as a slave, he set her free. Rabia went into the desert to pray and become an ascetic. Unlike many Sufi saints, she did not learn from a teacher or master, but turned to God himself. Throughout her life, her love of God, poverty, and self-denial were unwavering, and her constant companions, she did not possess much other than a broken jug, a rush mat, and a brick, which she used as a pillow. She spent all night in prayer and contemplation, chiding herself if she slept for it, took her away from her active love of God. As her fame grew, she had many disciples. She also had discussions with many of the renowned religious people of her time. Though she had many offers of marriage in tradition, has it even one from the Amir of Basra, she refused them as she had no time in her life for anything other than God. More interesting than her absolute asceticism, however, is the actual concept of divine love that Rabia introduced. She was the first to introduce the idea that God should be loved for God's own sake, not out of fear, as earlier Sufis had done. She taught that repentance was a gift from God because no one could repent unless God had already accepted him and given him this gift of repentance. She taught that sinners must fear the punishment they deserve for their sins, but she also offered such sinners far more hope of paradise than most other ascetics did. For herself, she held to a higher ideal, worshiping God neither from fear or of hell nor from the hope of paradise, for she saw such self-interest as unworthy of God's servants. Emotions like fear and hope were like veils, hindrances to the vision of God himself. She prayed, "O Allah, if I worship you for fear of hell, burn me in hell. And if I worship you in hope of paradise, exclude me from paradise. But if I worship you for your own sake, grudge me not your everlasting beauty." Rabia was in her early to mid 80s when she died. Having followed the mystic way to the end, by then she was continually united with her beloved. As she told her Sufi friends, "My beloved is always with me." She was the one who first set forth the doctrine of divine love and who is widely considered to be the most important of the early Sufi poets. Much of the poetry that is attributed to her is of unknown origin. After a life of hardship, she spontaneously achieved the state of self-realization. When asked by Sheikh Hassan Al-Basri how she discovered the secret, she responded by stating, "You know of the how, but I know of the how less." One of the many myths that surround her life is that she was freed from slavery because her master saw her praying while surrounded by light, realized that she was a saint, and feared for his life if he continued to keep her as a slave. While she apparently received many marriage offers, including a proposal from Hassan al-Basri himself, she remained celibate and died of old age, an ascetic, her only care from the disciples who followed her. She was first in a long line of female Sufi mystics. It is also possible that she helped further integrate Islamic slaves into Muslim society. Because of her time spent in slavery early in life, Rabia was passionate against all forms of it. She refused a slave later in life. There's such nobility, and what a life that she has lived. And it's amazing how this introduction and this context that we get for Rabia Al Basri, which kind of makes us realize that all of these initiatic paths require some form of test and hardship that you must go through. It's not like a social club happy hour or ice cream social club or a lot of the social club stuff that we see in many esoteric groups or Freemasonry in general in the West. It's more to it than that. It's a lot more to it than that. You just got to have the eyes to see it. You really got to be about it. It's more than just being a social club member. It's about becoming a better human being, smoothing out your ashlar, becoming close with your beloved, which is the Sufi aspect of becoming one with God. For the Mason, it's becoming one with the grand architect of the universe. So as I read out her life as it was described in this compilation, you get an idea of the foundation that she had is not only applicable to the Sufi path, but any path. You really got to be about it. You really got to be able to get put through the ringer at any time and not lose your faith. Order out of chaos. That's just how it works. Sometimes you got to fall down in order to get back up. Much stronger that way in that regard. So her first poem that we look at is Die Before You Die, which is basically the aspect of death and rebirth, which you have in many initiatic paths. The aspect of death, rebirth, and it's just that aspect that you have to know that there is a part of your life that you have to let go in order to ascend above a certain level of understanding. Now you look at the whirling dervishes in the desert, and they live in such parts of the desert where your normal human being can't live. And when they encounter beings like angels, jinns, ghouls, now if a ghoul sees your average human, you would get ripped to shreds. But when they're dealing with a Sufi dervish, or a Sufi mystic in general, he's in a state of fana, the annihilation of self. He has already let go of this world and all the attachment to fear, ego, hatred, lower self issues, division, war, chaos. Even now in the post 2020 world, we're so plagued by these things, while the Sufis ascended above all of that. So that's what it truly means to die before you die, which a lot of these initiatic paths even teach you, but unfortunately not many understand it or follow it. So the first poem is, of course, Die Before You Die, and it goes, ironic, but one of the most intimate acts of our body is death. So beautiful appeared my death, knowing who then I would kiss. I died 1,000 times before I died. Die before you die, said the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Have wings that feared ever touch the sun. I was born when all I once feared I could love. So it's telling you that in this world, even in the Masonic concept, you have the memento mori, where they're always showing the skulls all the time to remind yourself of your mortality. And even in the Islamic aspect, where a Muslim is not afraid to die. And that's why even in wars, they're not afraid to die. There's always a formidable force to deal with, as we see in recent events. And the aspect is that, what is this world that you're going to take with you? You're taught to chase degrees, titles, cars, live in a nice neighborhood, achieve the dream, how many perceive it. But let's say you go to sleep and you don't wake up. All the money in your account, your accolades, your titles, the numbers next to your name, your ego, you looking down upon others, you throwing other people under the bus to get to the position where you are. What good did any of that do you? So that's basically what it's saying, that in death, the only thing you're going to take with you are your good deeds, and that's it. It's like in the Sufi tradition, you have the angel of death, Azrael, that visits you 5 times a day. And each time he will ask God, can I take him? Can I take him? And each time God will say no, only when I tell you to. And there was a story of this rich businessman, and when it was time for him to be taken, he cried. He said, my wife, my business, etc., all these things. And the angel of death said, you can't take anything with you. And he said, what could I take with me? And he said, the good that you did for yourself and others. And the man cried. He said, all my life, I chased after all of these things, and all of it was just an illusion. I couldn't take nothing with me. Only thing I could take were my deeds. That's pretty much it. So that's the reality that we're facing in this path. And we have to realize that you can't be in a society where it's just pushing greed, chaos, not respecting others. That's not the one that's a true initiate, whether you're a Sufi, Mason, any other initiatic path that's out there. If you're really about that life, then your level of perception is above a certain terrestrial sphere, right? It's like, I speak for myself only, and I represent myself only when I talk about these things. When I see brother Masons who have served their organizations for 20, 30 plus years, and then there's dirty politics that kind of runs them out of the picture. That's not true Freemasonry. It doesn't matter if a lot of those guys have a 33 next to their name. Don't mean nothing if you don't have that love of God within yourself and around you. It's about carrying that light around you, and you can tell who's got it and who doesn't. So that's the main thing that we learn from this teaching from our dear sister. All right, now moving on, we have the dream fable. I saw myself in a wide green garden, more beautiful than I could begin to understand. In this garden was a young girl. I said to her, how wonderful this place is. Would you like to see a place even more wonderful than this? She asked. Oh, yes, I answered. Then taking me by the hand, she led me on until we came to a magnificent palace, like nothing that was ever seen by human eyes. The young girl knocked on the door and someone opened it. Immediately, both of us were flooded with light. Only Allah knows the inner meaning of the maidens we saw living there. Each one carried in her hand a serving tray filled with light. The young girl asked the maidens where they were going, and they answered her, we are looking for someone who was drowned in the sea, and so became a martyr. She never slept that night, not one wink. We are going to rub funeral spices on her body. Then rub some on my friend here, the young girl said. Once upon a time, said the maidens, part of the spice and the fragrance of it clung to her body, but then she shied away. Quickly, the young girl let go of my hand, turned, and said to me, your prayers are your light, your devotion is your strength. Sleep is the enemy of both. Your life is the only opportunity that life can give you. If you ignore it, if you waste it, you will only turn to dust. Then the young girl disappeared. So basically, this was an elemental or a benevolent elemental that was there to guide you. And it just goes to show you that even in the Masonic aspect and the Sufi aspect, you're always taught to put your trust in God. Trust in God and basically circumscribe your desires and live your life within due bounds, and to not waste your life. Like you're always reminded of your mortality, that you're given this one life, and to make the best of it, right? And that's basically what it is, where people in your life, they're happy to be with you at all times, and then during death you're regretted because they miss your presence. You left something behind where your kindness and something that you did for people is always remembered, and that's what immortalizes you. It's not about anything else or what the society teaches you to chase. None of that means anything. It does not mean anything. So that's what you're being taught, is the aspect of death, and why your sheer will and your devotion to God in your life and to those around you, like the aspects of Masonic principles and the core values of Sufism and all these other paths are teaching you, is to build that temple within yourself and to do the right thing while you have the time to do so. That's the beauty of this entire life, and the objective and the understanding that we get. Again, not everybody gets it, but for those who get it, uh, you are appreciated. You are appreciated, and you are part of that light that's holding this world together, and that cannot be overemphasized, especially with the type of chaos that we're dealing with now in the 2020s. If I adore you, if I adore you out of fear of hell, burn me in hell. If I adore you out of desire for paradise, lock me out of paradise. But if I adore you for yourself alone, do not deny to me your eternal beauty. This is one of her most quoted poems that I even seen with the memes, that they have this quote and a picture of her, like I showed earlier. So in this, it's basically telling you that there are people who pray to God, only pray to God during bad times in their life, and they pray to God thinking, oh, if I don't pray to God, God's going to throw me in hell. But in the Sufi Islamic aspect, God loves you 70 times more than the love of a mother. A mother loves her child so much, she always forgives him. And the love of God is 70 times more equivalent than that. So that's the scenario that we're dealing with, is we're dealing with aspects of religious hypocrites or initiatic hypocrites, no matter what path you find them on, that they don't practice what they preach, but they only do, they're only mere words. It's not in practice, or you don't feel that intent behind it, especially when somebody's in a difficult situation and then you see somebody's true colors. So she's basically teaching you here is love God, love each other without expecting anything in return. That if you're worried about being burned in hell, or if I'm a good Muslim, or if I'm good this, good that, then I'm going to go to heaven. I know people who go to church every Sunday or pray 5 times a day. Some of them are not good people. They cheat people in businesses. while they're pretending to be pious in front of others. Behind the scenes, it's a totally different lifestyle. So God is not only demanding your prayers, or even in the Masonic aspect, he's not just expecting you to be a paid up member. It's more to it than that. It's more to it than that, and it's your actions, and it's your heart, and it's your intention. That's why even in many initiatic studies in schools, they tell you that your heart has to be lighter than a feather. You can't have any malevolent intention for self and others. And that's why we see, why is our world suffering? Our world is suffering. We have all the so-called philosophers out there, gurus, and everyone that's claiming to have all the answers and all the technology resources. But why are we still suffering? That's the main question that I have. Because we've been taught to just worry about ourselves, not worry about anybody else. And that kind of path leads to a disaster. I mean, we're all walking each other home, and we owe this love and light to one another. And even in the initiatic paths, any path, you have to take this seriously. You have to take this seriously and love everybody and love God without any malevolent intention or motive. Nobody gets away with anything. Trust me on that. And what goes around comes around. Just the law of the universe, just the way things are. In my soul, there is a temple, a shrine, a mosque, a church where I kneel. Prayer should bring us to an altar where no walls or names exist. Is there not a region of love where the sovereignty is, illumined nothing, where ecstasy gets poured into itself and becomes lost, where the wing is fully alive but has no mind or body? In my soul, there is a temple, a shrine, a mosque, a church that dissolve in God. So what she's basically teaching us in the aspect of the soul is that where do you become a true believer or a true Mason? It's always your heart. Your heart is very important. And why the true initiate, doesn't matter if you're Sufi or Masonic or anything in general, you see light everywhere. You see light and goodness wherever you can find it. Like Manly Palmer Hall said, and William Preston said, that the true Mason basically finds light at all altars, because he realizes that there's truth and light everywhere. He can't be prejudiced. The true initiate or the true Mason cannot be a prejudice in any way, a bigot or prejudice in any way. And if he is, then he's cheating himself, regardless of the titles or numbers next to his name. Then he's basically living an illusion and a lie, which eventually that illusion will come crumbling down one day when the call of death comes and you get held accountable for your ego, intentions, and the life that you led. So you got to really be about it. It's like myself when I came to this country. I'm a Muslim, but on the same day, I would go to Quran classes, Bible classes, go to the Sikh Gurdwara, see them feeding people twice a day. And I saw that each path was teaching you the truth in its own way. Like you have the point within the circle, and that's the grand architect of the universe, in whichever way you perceive it. And everything around that circle is a tapestry of different colors and patterns that's to be celebrated, not condemned. And that's why even in Masonic, we're all on the level. We're all on the level. We love and respect one another. And it's like what it says in the Holy Quran, Surah 2, verse 62, which supplements this, that it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, Christian, or Muslim. As long as you believe in God and do the right thing, then on the day of judgment, you shall have no grief or any kind of condemnation applied to you. Like right now, we're seeing everybody's ready to condemn one another. So anything that promotes division, ego, and disunity, take my word for it. That's not of God. And that's not of something that's of love or light or benevolence, where you have people that have their own agendas that are putting their energy into those things. So be open-minded, be able to learn from different perspectives. It's not always about your perspective. Be able to learn from others. It's like myself. When I create my content, I realize that I see in the Western Masonic education system, the East is denied heavily. Everything points to the East, right? It's pretty self-evident, but they don't talk about it. Everything, the Greeks, Romans, it had like a very large Western bias to it. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever makes you look good and feel good and confirms your confirmations, right? Confirmation bias or your echo chambers. So I encourage, and I made my own content. I didn't see anybody else doing it because the true Mason appreciates light from all venues, including Eastern non-Islamic religions. It wasn't just about talking about Sufism. I talked about all of it, and including the Western esotericism. Like, you can learn from everywhere. Wherever light comes from, you learn from it. Don't deny it because of what you've been taught about who's right and who's wrong and what makes you look good and feel good. So that's what Rabia is teaching us in terms of everything that I've added so far to this conversation. Now we go to love. Love, I have loved thee with two loves, a selfish love and a love that is worthy of thee. As for the love which is selfish, therein I occupy myself with thee, to the exclusion of all others, but in the love which is worthy of thee. Thou dost raise the veil that I may see thee, yet is the praise not mine in this or that, but the praise is to thee in both that and this. So in the Sufi aspect, everything is Allah, or God is the only reality. Everything else is an illusion. It's like what Rumi said one time, that you have a mineral that goes to a plant, plant goes to animal, animal goes to man, man goes to angel, and angel goes back to God. And why in Islam, when somebody dies, we say, Inna lillahi, inna lillahi rajiun, which means that basically to Allah we belong and to him we shall return. That is the only reality, that the perfect being, to understand itself, manifested itself through all beings that are here trying to understand itself. While you're taught to look at God over here, up there, over here, out here, the last place you're going to look is in the human heart. And a lot of these texts also supplement it. Even the Holy Bible, Kingdom of Heaven is within. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, before all of the religions, Kingdom of Heaven is within. Holy Quran, Surah 50, we are close, we referring to God, that we are closer to mankind than his jugular vein. So, I mean, everything is within you. It's only love is the true answer. If you look at the aspect of love and anything that's of love and unity and understanding, no matter which way you're doing it, it's all acceptable. As long as it's helping you become a better person, helping you connect to that divinity, helping you be a better human being to self, your family, others, and people that count on you and love you, and you fulfilling your responsibility in this lifetime, then that's it. It's pretty much it. Same with the Masonic aspect. As long as you believe in that higher being and you're taught these core principles, then it's all, everything is teaching you the same thing. So, so it's pretty self-evident on the oneness of it all, no matter which path you follow in whichever way that you do. All right. Coffee break. My beloved, my peace, oh, my brothers and sisters, is my solitude, and my beloved is with me always. For his love I can find no substitute, and his love is the test for me among mortal beings. Wherever his beauty I may contemplate, he is my mihrab, towards him is my qibla. If I die of love before completing satisfaction, alas for my anxiety in the world, alas for my distress. O healer of souls, the heart feeds upon its desire. The striving after union with thee has healed my soul. O my joy and my life abidingly. You were the source of my life, and from thee also came my ecstasy. I have separated myself from all created beings. My hope is for union with thee, for that is the goal of my desire. So the ultimate goal of the Sufi is to unite with the beloved, Allah, God, the creator, the grand architect of the universe, in whichever way you perceive it, that pure form of love, unity, understanding, forgiveness, happiness, empathy, light, all of those great benevolent things, that is the true goal of the Sufi and the true goal of the Mason, if you look at it from an esoteric perspective, that everything in Masonry is about God, for God, by God, aspect of brotherhood, helping each other, uh, basically straightening yourself out in terms of your faults and growing yourself as an individual, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, chipping away at all the rough edges until you smooth out. And what do we see in the holy city of Kaaba, in Mecca in the east? The Kaaba, the perfect square, the smooth ashlar, and inside you have the pillars and the altar. So it's all basically one thing. Everything's teaching you the same exact thing in terms of letting go of the desires of this world, knowing that this life is an illusion. You're here, you're taught to chase this, taught to chase that. Some people even give up their souls for money and fame and fortune, but you see what happens to them in the end. They're miserable. They ended up giving something that was actually real, which was their existence of being, for something that was fake and an illusion. And you always end up paying a price for that. But the true believer is the one who doesn't accept anything from this world, and he or she takes that union with the beloved. And that's the greatest wealth that you can have. If you're connected to that one true source that gives all life in this universe, then you are the wealthiest person, not just in this world, but in this universe. If you have that with you, you're taught with the Masonic aspect, you're taught the same, that it's not about your wealth, it's about your qualities of your heart. Same thing with these different paths. It's not about what you have materially. It's about who are you really as a soul and as a being. And that's what kind of separates the wheat from the chaff. It is what it is. My God and my Lord, eyes are at rest, the stars are setting. Hushed are the stirrings of birds in their nests. Of monsters in the ocean, you are the just who knows no change, the balance that can never swerve, the eternal which never passes away. The doors of kings are bolted now and guarded by soldiers. Your door is open to all who call upon you. My Lord, each love is now alone with his beloved, and I am alone with you. So again, ask and you shall receive. That's the truth of all initiatic paths, what Rabia is teaching us from the Sufi perspective, from the Masonic perspective, that the door of God and the door to know thyself and know thy Lord is always there, but you got to be ready to knock upon it. And are you ready to walk that path of trial and tribulation and to become that perfect being or the perfect Sufi or the perfect Mason in that path? Are you gonna run away when the going gets tough, or when there's order out of chaos, and sometimes when things have to fall apart, or what they call in the tarot culture, the tower moments, that those are necessary. You gotta hit rock bottom sometimes in order for you to basically become one with that beloved. You wouldn't be who you are today if it wasn't for those lessons that you learned through those times of hardship or challenges. We wouldn't be who we are. And you have to be ready. Know that there's everything and anything around you that is part of that existence, that you are also a part of, that you are also a blessing to those who come before you. Through you and to you, let the abundance of love and energy flow through you to others. And that's what it's saying, that for these paths, again, you really got to be about it. And that cannot be stressed enough. And unfortunately, and I speak for myself only when I say this, I see many in initiatic paths, including Freemasonry, that don't fit this category. I'm sorry to say this, but it has to be said. And only over time, you will see those who last and those who don't. So God and the universe, those who are truly the creators of these paths, know how to balance things out. So you just smile and keep it moving and keep doing your thing. Don't worry about anybody or their ego or their agendas. My greatest need is you. Your hope in my heart is the rarest treasure. Your name on my tongue is the sweetest word. My choicest hours are the hours I spend with you. Oh Allah, I can't live in this world without remembering you. How can I endure the next world without seeing your face? I am a stranger in your country and lonely among your worshippers. This is the substance of my compliment or of my complaint. So again, those who put their faith in the grand architect of the universe, those who put their faith in God, you have everything. It's like when you encounter a lot of these beings, especially Sufi masters, and when you go to these different countries and different shrines, some of them are high-ranking individuals. They have everything, but they will portray themselves as a beggar because they know that I'm just a tourist in this world. How in Freemasonry, you're taught to travel light and be a traveling man. And that's basically what it is. Your soul is traveling through this life, through the moments of goodness, happiness, sadness, sorrow, fear, achievements, all the people that you're meant to see, things that you're meant to do, places that you're meant to go. It's all a beautiful picture being painted on the canvas. And for you to put your faith in destiny, your fate, God, knowing when you do that, there's no such thing as injustice that will occur to you. Even if something happens in the heat of the moment where you feel like your whole world is shattering around you, but trust me, look back at your life 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and imagine who you were as an individual. Are you that same person? So, and look at all the experiences that have happened from then till now. So a lot does happen and a lot does takes place in your life. You gotta keep the faith. That's basically what it is. Reality. In love, nothing exists between heart and heart. Speech is born out of longing. True description from the real taste. The one who tastes knows, the one who explains lies. How can you describe the true form of something in whose presence you are blotted out, and in whose being you still exist, and who lives as a sign for your journey? So basically, this is telling you that experience is the best teacher of your life. Experience and that knowing within yourself is what makes you that true believer and the true initiate. And it doesn't matter if you have not been initiated in any path, because ultimately, what is the prerequisite even when you do join anything? It's about your heart. And you're already a believer in your heart before you even came to those paths. So if you already have that within you, some have it, some don't. If you have it within you, then you have it. No one can take that away from you. And that's basically what it is that the one who knows, they know. And that's basically telling you to also to continue to keep the faith, knowing that the true description of that taste of the hearts and connecting with each other and the different people you come across from your journey, people that you just click with, who require no explanation about why you're doing what you're doing and how you're doing it, who, what, where, and why, etc. It's like finding your tribe. So in these initiatic paths, you find an aspect of a tribe, or in Freemasonry, you find a lodge that works for you. Not every lodge is of a true Masonic quality. So you find the one that works for you, the one that you get a good energy from, the one whose hearts that you connect to with its members. Other Sufi paths, initiatic paths, not every order or basically venue will serve your exact need. So it's telling you to deal with those people who require no explanation about who you are and who you click with, as you need your companions and brothers to be able to achieve the objectives that you're looking for. So when you find the right one, you'll know. It's like just finding the right spouse, right? Sometimes you just know. And to not lose your faith in the bigger pictures, right? It's like if you have the aspect of those that are disappointed with religion or initiatic paths, let's say one place is not serving your need. That doesn't mean that whole religion or initiatic path or spiritual path is bad. You just go to a different venue. So not all fingers are the same size. So if one Sufi order is not serving you, find another one that works for you. It's the same exact thing, right? Or if one lodge is not serving you, find the one that welcomes you and appreciates what you do and supports what you do. That's pretty much it. The rest you leave it to God on who did you wrong and who didn't and who did you good, etc. Leave it all to him, and he sorts everything out and tells you to keep the faith. Take away the words of the devil. Oh God, take away the words of the devil that mix with my prayer. If not, then take my prayer as it is, devil and all. So it's telling you that it's about your intent in your prayers. If you have good intentions in your prayer, then that's basically, you don't mix that with your prayers. So if you pray for anybody's downfall or pray for anything to happen to anybody, those that are on malevolent paths, they try to do things to others through their own sorcery and other ways. You don't get away with that. You suffer. And I've seen those who suffered and fell in their own holes that they try to dig for others. So whatever you ask God, always do with a pure intention. And that's what ye shall get back. The holy water. No one lives outside the walls of this sacred place, existence. The holy water I needed upon my eyes, it is you, dear, you, each form. What mother would lose her infant? And we are that to God, never lost from his gaze, are we? Every cry of the heart is attended by light's own arms. You cannot wander anywhere that will not aid you. Anything you can touch, God brought it onto the classroom of your mind. Differences exist, but not in the city of love. Thus my vows and yours, I know they are the same. I have just peeled the skin from the potato and you are still contemplating its worth. Sweetheart, indeed, there are wonderful nutrients in all, for God made everything. You joined our community at birth with your father being who he is. What do the world's scales know of your precious value? The priest and the prostitute, they weigh the same before the sun's immaculate being. But who can bear that truth and freedom? So a wise man adulterated the scriptures. Every wise man knows this. My soul's face has revealed its beauty to me. Why was it shy so long? Didn't it know how this made me suffer and weep? A different game he plays with his close ones. God tells us truths you would not believe. For most everyone needs to limit his compassion, concepts of right and wrong. Preserve the golden seed until one of God's friends comes along and tends your body like a divine bride. So, and this is basically telling you that whether you're dealing with the skin of the potato or you're dealing with the potato itself, that everything, you will find the aspect of the truth everywhere. That in each form, whether it was the prostitute, the priest, the water, the potato, everything is connected to that one source. Like in the Masonic analogy, you have the grand architect of the universe, who's all-seeing eyes encompassing this world and its universe, watching you. Then you have in the Sufi aspect, you have the 99 names of Allah, which one of the names being Al-Basir. And Al-Basir is that one eye that watches you everywhere, and he's always watching you. It's like you have the story of the Sheikh, and he had 3 disciples, and he gave each of them a chicken, and he said, take it to a place where you kill it, where no one can see you. First did it in the house, second did it in the forest, and the third said, no matter where I went, whether it was the jungle, the forest, or the basement of my home, wherever I went, that all-seeing, encompassing eye of the Creator was watching me. So we think in this life that we're going to get away with everything. We're not. You're not, no matter who, what, where, and why. Your heart, even things that you have not spoken to anybody, he knows what's in your heart, what's in your mind, what's in your ego, what's the intention that you're putting out. If you hurt anybody, then you have to really be about it. Be about it and stand for your truth. And God will always send somebody your way to tend to you. It's like whenever I'm feeling down, somebody will always message me and call me at the right time. It just happens. We're connected to that source. And when you are, you have nothing to worry about. And to realize that God is always watching you, and to always hold yourself at a high standard in your life, and to never lose your faith. And the continuation of what we were reading, the holy sent out a surveyor to find the limits of its compassion and being. God knows a divine frustration whenever he acts like that, for the infinite has no walls. Why not tease him about this? Why not accept the freedom of what it means for our Lord to see us as himself? So magnificently sovereign is our lover, never say on the other side of the river a different king rules. For how could that be true? For nothing can oppose infinite strength. No one lives outside the walls of this sacred place, existence. The holy water my soul's browse needs is unity. Love opened my eye and I was cleansed by the purity of each form. So the Creator, it will speak to you through friends, through family, through different scenarios that take place. And whenever you're feeling down or in the dumps, just know that that love and support will always come to you in some way, shape, or form. And not to resist it, not to deny it. It's like the story of the man who was drowning in the ocean. And each time he asked God for help, there were people that would come with the boats and try to save him, and he refused them. And after several times, he ended up drowning because he refused each help that came his way. And he asked God, why didn't you help me? And he said, I did. It was you with your free will that chose not to accept that help. So when people come into our lives, sometimes you have to give people a chance. Not everyone has an agenda. When you pray and ask God for help, he does send help your way, whether it's through the form of your brotherhood in Masonry, in the Sufi path, your brothers and sisters on the path, the Sheikh, in whichever way. It's like what our dear sister is teaching us here, is that the infinite has no walls. It will approach you in some way, shape, or form to be able to connect with you. And that's the reality that we're dealing with. So the final, with my beloved I alone have been, when secrets tenderer than evening airs passed, and the vision blessed was granted to my prayers that crowned me, house obscure with endless fame. The while, amazed between his beauty and his majesty, I stood in silent ecstasy, revealing that which o'er my spirit went and came, lo, in his face and commingled, in his every charm and grace, the whole of beauty singled into a perfect face, beholding him would cry, there's no God but he, and he's the most high. So as we see, everything that Rabia is teaching us is about the aspect of the soul. The soul, what is the goal of the Sufi? What is the goal of the initiate of any path? Is to find that true unity and oneness within your heart, mind, body, and soul. That's what we're learning. That's what we have to approach. We have to keep the faith, abide by the true tenets of whatever our paths are teaching us, and to know that that help, whenever we ask for it, does come, and be able to open to receive it, stand by our principles, and not let get ourselves too attached to this world, where even in the Masonic path, Sufi path, you're always taught about your mortality. So have faith, love each other, don't hurt anybody's heart, seek forgiveness from those that you have to seek forgiveness from, put your egos down, and be good to yourself and your family, and do the good that you can while you can, when you can. And just know that if today was your last day, what kind of world are you leaving behind for yourself and your family? And what can you do right for those that love you and put their faith in you? Is it always about you all the time, or is it about others as well? So think about that. We're all in this infinite spiral together, in this continuous form of life, like the Sufi dervish that's always whirling all the time in the infinite life form. So think about it. Think about what Rabia taught us. Think about what all of these different paths are teaching you. And I send my love and blessings for all of you and your families for the month of September ahead. I hope it brings peace to all of you in all way, shape, and form. Thank you to all of you.